Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good to see you there, Mr. Administrator.
Good to see you.
Appreciate all the great work you're doing. I proudly represent the Johnson Space Center in Houston, which manages the International Space Station, the Lunar Gateway Program, and development of the next generation spacesuits. And I understand that NASA is currently undergoing a study to evaluate the cost of returning to the moon, as we've been speaking about this morning. JSC stands ready to execute the Vice President's very exciting vision to return to the moon as soon as possible. So I wanted to ask you just a few questions. How much will it cost to complete the Lunar Gateway as proposed in the FY20 budget request?
So there's a number of issues. When we go to the moon in 2024, in order to achieve that, we have to accelerate the gateway process. We need a power and propulsion element, and we need a habitation module. We need to be able to forward stage, if you will, landing capability, so that when we launch humans in 2024, they have the tools necessary to get to the surface of the moon. So all of those right now are in flux, and it's important for me in the coming weeks to come back to you with what that cost is going to look like.
Okay, I got you. What impact will accelerating exploration of the moon have on the International Space Station?
It shouldn't have any impact on the International Space Station. Low Earth orbit is still key to our mission, and it should have no impact.
Okay, great. How much will it cost to accelerate lunar lander development? I guess you'll have to get back with us on that as well.
Yes, sir, I'd appreciate that.
Okay. Our current spacesuits were developed in the late 70s. Recent EVA issues have highlighted NASA challenges with spacesuits. After losing suits in the Challenger, Columbia, and SpaceX cargo accidents, we only have a handful left in inventory. Over the last several years, astronauts have even almost drowned in their spacesuits. The current spacesuits used on ISS are not capable of surface operations. NASA issued a report to Congress that laid out a plan for future spacesuit development. Will that plan be accelerated now that we're accelerating exploration of the moon's surface?
Sir, in order to get to the moon's surface, we have to have new spacesuits.
Okay.
It's going to can't.
It's a no-brainer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And what do you expect that cost to be, and will JSC maintain its role in spacesuit development?
The astronaut office at JSC will absolutely be involved, and their role is not going to change. Certainly the cost is something I'm going to have to get back to you on.
Okay. And as I said earlier, the American public is excited by the administration's enthusiasm for space exploration, and I certainly look forward to helping achieve all of these very, very exciting goals. And then I think I've got a little time left. Last month, the chairwoman and ranking member sent a letter to the commissioners of the FCC expressing concern about its proposed radio frequency spectrum auction. Based on feedback from the scientific community, their letter highlighted the need for interagency consultation among affected scientific agencies and the consideration of unintended consequences on areas such as weather forecasting before the auction could move forward. Can you explain to the committee what NASA's role is during the interagency consultation process and concerns that you have about last month's auctions?
A great question. So NASA works with the NTIA, which is the government arbiter of spectrum issues, and NTIA ultimately represents NASA to the rest of the government when it comes to spectrum auctions and that kind of thing. I will tell you that the 24 gigahertz spectrum that is being auctioned could have an impact on NASA's missions. When we talk about sensing the Earth in the 23 gigahertz range, what that enables us to do is characterize water vapor in the atmosphere. It enables us to characterize energy in the atmosphere. And why is that important? Because that's how we're able to make predictions. I say we, NASA is not responsible for the operational capabilities, but we are responsible for developing the satellites for NOAA that operates them operationally. And that part of the electromagnetic spectrum is necessary to make predictions as to where a hurricane is going to make landfall. So that has a big impact. If you can't make that prediction accurately, then you end up not evacuating the right people, and or you evacuate people that don't need to evacuate, which is a problem. And all those have impact. When it comes to Hurricane Sandy, for example, the United States of America believed it was going to be heading out to sea. The European model got it right. Well, it wasn't the European model, it was the European data. They had better data than we had from their systems. We want to make sure we get this right, because it's necessarily life and property. It's also important to recognize when it comes to weather forecasting in general. Again, you'd have to ask NOAA, but my consultations with them, we're talking about going back to 1978 levels of data. In other words, instead of a 7-day weather forecast, a 2 or a 3-day weather forecast. Again, I'm not saying that they sold our spectrum. That didn't happen. But there is a risk that depending on the power and the position of the cell towers in the 5G network, it could bleed over into our spectrum, and that's the risk. And the assessments that NASA has done in conjunction with NOAA have determined that there is a very high probability that we are going to lose a lot of data.
A lot of challenges there, Mr. Administrator. I want to thank you for your hard work and your insight and experience, and I'm looking forward to helping achieve the goals that you've laid out for us today, and still at the same time be a good steward of the taxpayers' funds.
Yes, sir.
I'll yield back.
Thank